Hi everybody. I'm really excited about this particular interview. I'm here today with Jeffery McNeill of The Phantom and the Illharmonic Orchestra, and he's coming actually to Austin for South by South, and we're very excited to have him. And he's
Absolutely.
going to
Thank
tell
you.
us, yeah, well, he's going to tell us a little bit about what he does and how PR positioning and marketing and that first initial step has helped him in his business and helped attract new people and also personnel as well. So if you're a small business owner or somebody that's just kind of curious about that first initial step with your positioning, he's going to have some insights, especially with somebody that manages a large group of people. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what you guys see doing in the future.
So what we do is we combine the raw energy and passion of hip hop with the beautiful sounds of live orchestration. The Phantom and the Harmonic Orchestra is a live performance ensemble that has members ranging from 10 all the way up to 50 musicians on stage. We've performed at Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and like you mentioned, we'll be coming to South by Southwest on March the 21st. So it's kind of a brief overview of who The Phantom and the Harmonic Orchestra is.
Perfect. So you manage a larger group of people, right?
Yes.
And so you probably have different subsets of people. You have personnel, you have musicians, you have all sorts of. So when initially you were stepping out to bring those people in, what role did kind of positioning yourself as somebody that's obviously not a traditional orchestra, right? And not traditional hip hop either. And I've done a lot of research on you, and it's not traditional in almost any sense. So, you're kind of playing that dance of where you kind of fall position wise. Where do you position yourself in the musical landscape, right? So tell us a little bit about how you got the people that you have now, your core people.
Okay. When we first began, we were paired with musicians from like the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Chamber Orchestra of Philadelphia, and some of the more tenured and older musicians from large ensembles, who weren't necessarily a stylistic fit, although they could play the music, weren't necessarily from either of our hip hop background or anything like that. So what we sought to do after that was seek out a younger musician, someone college age, someone, within the demographics of the people who we were actually trying to get to the theater to come see us, someone who grew up with both hip hop and classical music, much like my wife and I. And that's when we started to kind of see a shift in not only the music that we were playing for people who were coming to see it, but the enjoyment level. We were able to sell out, some early shows, but that was due primarily to curiosity. What we got after that was, sort of the super fan who was like, they're playing the music that I like. They're playing the music of my youth. They're adding a different twist to it, and people on the stage look like me. So that began to, we noticed the shift, and also we kind of simplified our marketing. When we were advertising some of these shows, it was The Phantom and the Illharmonic Orchestra. If you weren't familiar with the group, that wouldn't necessarily be something you would click on or a flyer you would pick up. We simplified it to Hip Hop Orchestra in Philly, Hip Hop Orchestra at the Kennedy Center, Hip Hop Orchestra. That, sort of kind of got the initial click, like, hey, what is this? I've not really seen or heard something like this. And then, once you're on the page, we hit you with videos and pictures and questions and things of that nature to kind of reel you in. And the next thing you know, we drive you towards the box office and you're buying that purchase and you're coming to see the show. So kind of simplifying on both aspects, getting the musicians who enjoy playing the music, and then simplifying the marketing to grab the individuals who we want to come see us, and it's kind of taken off.
So then you really, when it comes to like optics and just positioning of the orchestra and the kind of the brand, it looks like it was more of a curiosity. Like, and that was pretty powerful, right? It seemed like it was really powerful. It was really clear though. Hip hop orchestra done.
Yes.
Right. And it made
absolutely.
it made it really kind of curious, and
yes.
And that drew people in, you would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what type of shift did you see? Okay, so you mentioned two people that were curious, and then people that were kind of like turned into super fans. So what brought, and this is a really key question to answer, especially from your perspective, and a lot of people are going to really value your answer, because it takes sometimes a little bit to pull somebody over into a super fan, whether you have an orchestra or a business I mean,
Right.
what was that? What do you think? What have you seen that really just turned somebody into like, wow, this is amazing? Because I know I watched like 2 videos, and then you sent me the other one over text, and I was like, this is fun. For me, it
Right.
was fun. It was a fun aspect.
So that's what it is. So we liken our performances to a house party at a concert hall.
Oh,
You know,
that's clever.
so when you show up, you know, when you go to see a regular, not a regular, when you go to see a traditional symphony orchestra, you know, sometimes it's a mapped out experience. You're told when to clap. You're told, you know, when, you know, not to make noise when the orchestra is warming up. Like it's really an experience that it's kind of, you know, charted out for you. When you
Right.
come to
Predictable almost.
Absolutely. So when you come to see a hip hop orchestra performance, from the moment that we hit the stage, we invite you. You know, we invite you to make noise. We invite you to stand up and dance. If you know the songs, we invite you to sing them, and that kind of turns it into an all-inclusive sort of performance. You know,
Or communal.
Absolutely. So you feel as though you're a part of it, and we're, you know, if we're traveling to a certain city, or we're traveling to Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, like we'll do a local hip hop classic cover or a local R&B classic cover from those cities. So the individuals are like, oh, this is the music that I grew up listening to. So it really translates into the audience experience. So that kind of pushes them towards the super fandom, because they feel as though they're a part of it. They're first of all invited into a space where they wouldn't necessarily normally feel welcome. Then they're given an experience similar to what they would, you know, feel at a house party or, you know, a club in their area, and it kind of transforms that entire experience. Like, wow, I'm in Carnegie Hall, or I'm in the Kennedy Center, and I'm having a party. You know, so that kind of really transforms the entire experience, and it's working for us.
Interesting. Yeah. So if you were to kind of, you know, it's interesting. It feels like you're almost following the same model that Apple follows. So I had a discussion on a podcast that I was being interviewed on just like a couple weeks ago, and about marketing, about how when Apple starts to release a new product, they start releasing details through blogs.
Right.
And then sort of starts filtering out, and then the big announcement. And what that does is it makes it feel like it's not $1 trillion brand.
Absolutely.
And so you're following kind of the same model in the sense that you make it curious. They go, what's this about? And people come in and they feel like they're part of a community, not ostracized. And as much as I love going to the symphony. It's a very powerful experience, right?
Absolutely.
But you're right. It's very, you know, formal, and, you know, and it's very like, you know, fuddy-duddy in a way, right? You know, and it's different. You know, what you guys are doing, and I think that's the main message. What you guys are doing is not a formal orchestral experience, right? And you don't want to be either, but you want to
absolutely.
be inclusive. You want to be inclusive.
Right.
And so making people feel part of a community, and especially in this day and age where, you know, we like to pretend we're connected through technology.
Yes.
But we're not connected in that, you know, it's very tribal, right? It's very tribal.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit. So go ahead.
Hashtags and touch points and things of that nature. But like you said, it's not really communal. It's tribal, and it's you know, siloed, you know, more than you would expect.
Well, what I was going to ask next is, you know, tell me a little bit about the feedback that you've gotten from superfans. What have they said that said, oh my gosh, do more of X?
So the my wife is a part of the ensemble as well. She sings, she raps. Early on, it was, you know, I was primarily the feature, and I had another MC who would, you know, kind of back me up. You know, once my wife started to take more of a performance, you know, ownership role, you know, it really kind of took it to the next level, and that speaks to some of the demographics that we've been able to reach. You know, when we do Facebook, Twitter, or any sort of, you know, marketing, our key demographic is the, you know, 34 to 45, followed by the 25 to 34, and again, those individuals who grew up kind of in hip hop's golden age. And, you know, they represent, if you know anything, of course you do, they represent the largest online buying population, you know, and if we're doing it right there on Facebook, you know, they'll click, watch a video, click, buy a ticket, you know, and so consequently we have a lot of 34 to 45-year-old women in our audience, who are coming to see this, and they're bringing their 10, 15-year-old child who also plays the cello, who also plays the violin. And then I walk on stage, and then my wife walks on stage, and she steals the show, and boom, you have a lifelong fan. And they bring their children up to us after the show. Can my son take a picture with you guys, or my daughter take a picture with you guys? She plays the violin, he plays the cello, and now you have the next generation of the Phantom and the Illharmonic Orchestra fans right there in the front row.
That's magic, right? And so do you think it's important then when you're building out, and this is just for anybody else listening and watching this that might not have orchestra, but if they have a team or they have a leadership maybe, or, something like that, you think it's important to have certain elements that play. And when I say elements, people, like, when your wife comes out, that's going to appeal to those women, right? Do you think that's
absolutely.
We're not trying to be manipulative here, but do you think it helps? Because ultimately we all just want to serve people, right? And it's just getting people to, kind of trust us, right? And do you think that helps that trust factor to have, I saw some of your videos, you have some pretty young folks in your ensemble.
Absolutely. So I think for if you're an artist, it first pays you to pay attention to who's paying attention to you. So
say that again. Actually.
It pays you to pay attention to who's paying attention to you. It wasn't as though my wife took a role once we noticed that women were watching. It kind of happened naturally, organically, and she as she took more of a role, more women started to become part of the fan base. So having that organic growth, really helped us ascend to the next level, rather than saying, all right, we're going to try this and we're going to go for this. We're going to go for virality or something, to that effect. But it helped that we were also looking at, the demographics from an ad that we placed. Oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening here in this specific city. This is the group. This grouping of words helps bring in this audience once we're placing an ad. This particular picture of my wife and I with a 6-year-old violinist center stage at Carnegie Hall looks different from this picture on this ad. So taking into account all of these different factors and paying attention to what's working and what's not working. Yes, there were some absolute missteps, like I mentioned. Having the Phantom and the Illharmonic Orchestra at such and such wasn't quite working. Once we switched it to hip hop orchestra at Carnegie Hall or Kennedy Center or something like that, just being aware of what's working for you, and then continuing to streamline that and to make that part of your brand.
So let's dovetail off of that and talk about messaging, because you guys are a message, right?
Yes.
You're not just an orchestra with a DJ, right?
Yes.
You have a message and a feel, right? And I think that's important. A lot of people miss that, when they're building any type of project. I mean, they kind of miss, how does this make me feel? Earlier today we were at the mall, and if you walk into Bed Bath & Beyond or the Yankee Candle store, it gives you a feeling. Right?
Yes.
It's a very strong feeling and smell, obviously.
Of course.
So if you have a message and a feel, how has that evolved over time in collaboration with the people that have become your patrons? It probably started as something and then it's grown now. And, you collaborated with the people that have become patrons, passively. How has that evolved over time? That message and feeling.
Yes. So, when we first started this, one of our first performances was in Philadelphia at this new place called the Kimmel Center. And my wife tells a funny story. She was in the elevator with someone who was coming to come see us perform, an older gentleman. And she asked him, what is he there, for? And he said, I want to see what this hip hop orchestra is all about. And he had his arms folded and but by the end of the show, the guy came to the front of the stage and almost broke my neck, hugging me and thanking me for the experience. And, so it's that sort of transformative performance that we're looking to give. We're looking to make people feel included in the performance, and you know, and that also happens when you have people on stage who are of your age group, who look like you, who are playing the music that you're familiar with, and we have a wide range of you know, audience. You know, it's not just the 34 to 45. Like, we'll have some you know, 50, 60-year-old individuals in the audience who you know, are familiar with the Donny Hathaway songs that we're playing, the LTD songs, and you know, those sorts of things. That
well, they're probably honest. They're probably closet hip hop fans.
Absolutely, you know,
and you're allowing them to kind of break free a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's sort of our messaging. You know, if you looked across the board in the last couple of years, a lot of traditional orchestras are kind of going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Because they're not reaching out to, you know, the new generation of, you know, trying to rely on your 70-year-old patrons to see Beethoven for the 50th time in their life. You know, kind of
it's not that the music's not that good though. It's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, music is great, but they're not trying to include you know, newer patrons. They're not doing anything different to try to, you know, get a different market or anything like that. What we're doing is we're trying to bring new people for a new experience to some of these concert halls, and that's kind of the messaging of inclusivity that we're bringing.
Well, and I think that goes just to sort of the point that you have to mold and shape over time.
Absolutely.
So what type of evolution have you gone to this point? That's the first, and the second part of that question is, where do you see you kind of evolving into the future, say then, you know, the next year or so?
Mm-hmm. So what we've kind of evolved from, in addition to incorporating, you know, early on, it was, you know, I was using Vivaldi and Beethoven and things of that nature. You know, now I'm composing works from the ground up. I'm working with other young composers who are, you know, composing music as well, and we're making entirely new orchestrations, you know, for hip hop. And where I see that evolving to is sort of like, you know, my wife and I being able to have a hip hop orchestra performance in Philadelphia simultaneously while I'm working with another composer and another ensemble in Los Angeles or Detroit or Chicago, or, you know, having multiple performances, you know, run at the same time that are featuring different artists and different composers. So I see us sort of expanding that into, you know, the next few years.
Like
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Licensing.
Yeah, there you go. See, I mean, there's something that's I got to make for the listeners here. There's something very clear is that, you know, you can have an art and structure it as a business and be successful. You got to have that both because you want it to survive, right?
Yes.
You know? And so, yeah, that's real smart. So let's go ahead and move on from that. And you know, what role has PR in general? You know, stuff like, you know, everything's, and what have you transitioned from? Or did you start with posters and then you went to Facebook ads? You know, what kind of lessons did you learn to use PR to your advantage?
So in the beginning, I primarily used like college radio, because I started out performing in like college concert halls and things of that nature. One, they were affordable. They were affordable to rent, and colleges usually have a built-in audience. So if I was able to capture some of the listeners through college radio, you know, some of those college radio stations had a larger footprint than some of the major radio stations in certain cities. You know, so I was able to kind of capture some of those markets and then go into those colleges and perform and expand from there. And then the advent, obviously, of MySpace and then Facebook and Twitter and things, you know, and things, you know, things of that nature. And now the online footprint is huge. Like I said, we have a large online audience, and primarily that 34 to 45-year-old market really loves Facebook. To give an example, we did a show in Chicago, and I put up a Facebook event page, and it grew to like 14,000 people interested.
Whoa!
Right, you know, for an ensemble such as myself, like I'm not Kanye West, I'm not Lupe Fiasco, I'm not Kendrick Lamar. So for someone like us to get that sort of, you know, kind of marketing push, and I bet
you dimes to donuts that if it had been a free quartet concert, it wouldn't have gotten 1/8 of that. And I've seen, you know, here in Austin, there's a lot of live music, and there's tons of free. I mean, there's one tomorrow night, I believe, And it's like they do it in churches and maybe there's a few hundred people, not
Right.
14,000. So
Absolutely.
before you continue your thought, let me ask you, what do you think got you to that 14, or what maybe attracted that 14,000? I mean, that's a lot for quote unquote classical music,
Right.
classically oriented music. That's a lot.
Right. So the simplification of the marketing. All I did was put up an event page that said Hip Hop Orchestra in Chicago. And overnight, we got, our first night I put it up, I got like 500 people. And they shared it. And they shared it with their friends. And then their friends shared it. And then, within several months.
It was a free event, right?
It wasn't a free event. No, it was a ticketed event. Yeah, at Auditorium Theater in Chicago. And it was, the same thing happened to our.
Did it sell out or come close?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's a simplification of the message.
Yes. And that allowed people to just, oh my goodness, what is this? Let's find out. Let's get interested, and click on it. And, that kind of ballooned from there. And that's happened several times. Like we've sold out at least 5 concerts in Austin at Bates Recital Hall with that same messaging. So
what you kind of led into it. So what element or what has been the role that doing certain locations has played? Like I'm not hearing you playing, Wichita, Kansas. I'm hearing big cities. Do you think are you trying to position yourself as a huge act? I mean, is that kind of the big deal? All the big acts would do Austin, Dallas, Chicago, New York,
right?
All the, Taylor Swift, Kendrick, they would all do the big. So is that part of the positioning as well? You're not trying to limit yourself. You're like to the small little theaters in the middle of nowhere. You're like, we're just going to go bigger, go home.
Absolutely. So I think the sheer audacity of that kind of frees up the person who's clicking on it to like, oh my goodness, they're playing here. They must be someone.
Right.
Let me find out who they are.
Interesting.
They're playing Atlanta, they're playing DC, they're playing Chicago, they're playing Philadelphia, New York. They must be someone. And I made a decision early on to not be an opening act. Like we've never been an opening act for anyone. We've always been either the featured act or we were in some sort of festival, but we've never been like an opening act for anyone.
And I struggle with that. They're like, well, is it a confidence thing? I mean, and a lot of brands struggle with. I mean, businesses in general. They kind of take a back seat because they're like, oh, there's no way that I could, be the headliner in any industry.
Right. I think part of it is what they've been taught. A lot of new artists think that you have to get on someone's tour, you have to open up for someone when they come to your city in order to get fans and get their fans. What I've seen from other people who have taken that route is it doesn't always translate. Like you can open for Kendrick Lamar, but that doesn't mean Kendrick Lamar's fans are going to become your fans. Doesn't mean that they're even going to show up for the first 90 minutes until they know Kendrick Lamar is there. So
they're just waiting.
Right, you may be performing in an empty theater that seats 5,000 people for 300 people. And that's not a great feeling either. But it carrying yourself in a certain and we've had to go out and rent concert halls. Like I rented Bates Recital Hall and through our event, and the feel of it, people were like they have to. Like it's the fear of missing out, FOMO. This is something like your event page is blowing up 5,000-10,000 people. I can't miss this. I got to see what this is. I need to buy a ticket.
Yeah, so it's interesting. That's smart, right? So you're taking the risk up front. So when you open for somebody, you're taking the risk on the back end because you're hoping those people translate. You're trying to get like free, I hate to say free ride, but you know what I mean? Right. Or you can, maybe do a little extra work, take the investment up front.
Yes.
And that positions you, literally, it makes you look, I don't want to say bigger than you are, you're as big as you deserve.
As you deserve, yes.
Yeah, because if you have a good product or a good service, or in your case, a great experience, you deserve to be there.
Yes.
And the marketing and what you look like out front matches that.
Yes, absolutely.
Good stuff. That's great. And it's worked. It's
Yes.
worth, I mean, 5,000-10,000 for an orchestra with a, hip hop. I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Yes.
So let me get to my last question here, and then I'll let you go, and we'll sort of talk a little bit more. But
Right.
how do you want people to see you,
Mhm.
the orchestra, and everything that you're doing in the future? How do you want people to see you?
I want people to see us as giving an inclusive experience. Like I said, it's very important to my wife and I. When we do these performances, to bring new people who wouldn't necessarily feel welcomed at these concert halls, bring them in and make them feel as though they deserve to be there. They should be there. They want to be there in those spaces, and to look up on stage and see someone that could be them or their child or their nephew, performing, music that they love, that they grew up with. First and foremost, like, we want everyone to feel welcome and included, and to know that when they see us on stage, they need to be prepared to have a great time. And that's really what we want.
Where can people find out about you?
Online at www.thephantomhiphop.com.
And that's THEE.
Yes,
Yep.
THEEPHANTOM hiphop.com.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Success for you. Thank you for all the insights, and I hope to see you in Austin.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Major city, right?
Absolutely.
No openers.
No openers.
All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.